Okay. Let me get back to this. So this three-step process, the first one, enable migrations. For that to work, one of the things, we did want something. If you don't do that, it's not going to connect to your database. What did we have to do? Okay, Lee?
Is it a rest thing? Are you the default connection?
Yeah, you have to change the connection string. So if you've not done this, it's not going to connect to your database. It creates a local small database locally on Visual Studio. It's sort of a micro version of SQL Server, but that's not going to be sufficient for us. So you have to set this up to connect to the database. The other piece that Eric just pointed out, we have to open up the package manager console. So if you get to that, you can, do you know how to get to it if it's not accessible from here? Yeah.
Tools.
Yeah.
And then you get package manager and you put package manager.
Yeah. So these are the two, the manager console and the this is the second is the UI that opens up, but this is where we'll be doing most of the migration related commands. And if it's getting too cluttered here, you can always use CLS for clear screen. Pretty much any of the let me see if I can open this up further. It's all pretty much the extent of what it covers. Okay. So the thing is, one of the things, when I was telling Chris this, since Chris has not yet migrated, my suspicion is this is where his problem lies. So he said he was getting an error with a data set. How many projects do we have? The two main ones, well, we also had this modeling project. So make sure you've selected this as your startup project. You have that as a startup project.
Yeah, I didn't before. I fixed that. I have a new
problem
now with mine, but that was one of them.
Okay, the other is you have to make sure that you're working with this, the MVC app, not the tests when you're doing your migration. Yeah. Okay. So once you have that, then the first of the three steps was to enable migrations. You do that just once. Once you enable migrations, you should, at that point, it starts connecting to the database through the connection string. The second step is to add an initial migration, and all of this is, and then you update the database. And the question that I had was, when you updated the database, it went in and created these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables. So where did these tables come from? I said the migration, the entity framework basically says, I'll take all the classes in your object-oriented world and create equivalent tables on the database world. So where did these come from? And as you can see, they are fairly, some of these, like if you go to ASP.NET users, they have like 10, 12 columns and so on. So Megan, where did they come from?
I was going to guess that they're auto-generated.
Well, when do you think they were auto-generated?
After you did all the migration.
The tables were already generated, or it actually created the script, the initial .cs script. So this is the script that runs to create the tables. But remember, to create this, the entity framework relies on the classes in your model. Okay, so where are these classes coming from? What are we using here?
Are they built into the ASP framework?
They are built into the MVC framework, and that's where when we added the identity part of it, so you can see when it says identity models, it basically brings in all of this authentication, authorization classes that are built into .NET, so into the MVC library. So that's where all this comes from. And I think I mentioned one of the first applications I developed, a web application in around 2000. That's what, 17 years ago. I spent literally 2 months setting up this authentication process because every piece had to be built from scratch. Now you have it pretty much out of the box. So one of the things is to find these pre-built tools and see if you understand and can. Microsoft is gradually, with MVC, moving towards the open source world. Liv and I, during the break, we were discussing Python, which has now existed for nearly 30 years, and it's constantly growing. Why has it become such a powerful language? Yeah.
Because it can operate locally and on the internet.
Okay, that's one. It's agnostic of any operating system. It can exist on different applications, any type of, whether it's web or desktop. But what else? It's one of those, unlike Microsoft's programs, it's an open source program. So which means that there are constantly libraries being added on. So at some point I will discuss it for data analytics. It's actually a very neat object-oriented environment. Has anyone dabbled with Python? You have? Okay, so keep forgetting you. Krista, you're going to Nautilus, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're working with any of the development, they do use Python there. A couple of the students were telling me that they have worked with Python. Well, currently there. At Nautilus, yeah. Anyways, conceptually the object orientation is very similar. Okay, the last piece. Okay, now that we have actually done the migration, you have to be comfortable going back and forth, like where you populate the database and then migrate back. So one of the things I tend to do is, let's see, I want to add in my new class, and the new class, it's a relatively simple class. It just has 2 attributes, which in MVC I said that unlike with classes and other environments, there are no attributes. Instead, you'll be mainly dealing with properties. How many of you know the difference between attributes and properties? What tells you that something is a property? Okay, maybe? If the get set tells you these are properties, so you have get property, set property. And the other is, if it was an attribute, for most part, the access type is going to be private, because it's a property, you set it to public. So behind the scenes, actually, MVC uses or creates attributes, but their recommendation, MVC's recommendation, is just create properties and we take care of what's behind. Okay, so and then you have to designate one of these as a key, and this is called a data annotation, whatever you put in square brackets above the property. And the other piece here is, whenever we create our own constructor, what do we need to do? Okay, maybe. Yeah, you need a second empty constructor because the entity framework looks for this. It uses it for its own purpose. The way it creates empty objects and then it uses properties on those objects. What we are saying is we are going to directly use this constructor to create our objects. So we are using a method called populate colleges. And one of the things that anytime we are dealing with multiple objects of a class, we don't, right now, what does this method belong to? Does it belong to the class, or is it belonging, when you use it, do you use it with an object of the class? So currently, is this an object or instance method, or is it a class method? Well, it's Logan this time.
Object method, because there's a static.
Okay, for it to be a class method, as Logan pointed out, you have to use the keyword static here. So if I use static, then, and it's the logic behind it. If you're going to say you're applying it on an individual object, what are we doing inside here? We're basically creating multiple objects. So which college object are you going to call this method on? It doesn't make sense. So that's why we make it a static method, which means that it belongs to the class rather than the object. So bring that piece in. Okay, so that's one thing, that this is how you build up the class. Okay, these pieces you need to have. Does anyone remember what else we did after we created this class to be able to connect to the database? Yeah. That we already did. We had to do it the very first step. There was something else that we did. Yeah.
You have to add your get set into the identity model.
Yeah, good. What Krista just pointed out, go into this identity models file, and there are, I didn't call it a class, I call it a file, because if you go into that file, you'll see two classes, application user. This is what helps you with the authentication. And then there is this application DB context, which is the class that's used by MVC to communicate with the databases. So we went into that class. So you have to be a little careful. This is the end of the application user class, and this is the end of the application DB context class. Okay, so this is again, Krista pointed this out to us, that this is a property that we are with these get set methods, but it's also communicating with the database. So, and the database is going to have a table called colleges if everything works well. Okay, the last piece that we need to add in before we do something is, let's go to the config. Okay, so when you go here, this tells you how you can migrate or populate. And so So you could do this, but instead I'm going to do it a little differently, so that you can add one object at a time to send it to the database. Instead, I'm going to say we are going to create a list of, so this is in the seed method, so go to configuration.cs. Inside of the seed method, I want to create a list of these colleges. Okay, so it's not recognizing list and it's not recognizing college, so which means I need to use system.collections.generic to get to the list clause, and then college. Let's see, what do I need for college? It's a clause inside the models, right? Yeah.
Do you need a using command?
Yeah, you need the using. So you can see that it's actually, this version of Visual Studio has made it significantly easier. It recognizes it and says, provide the fix. Okay, so that adds in, okay, so this is going to be the list of colleges, so I'll just call it college list, and I'm going to get this list from the populate college method. So remember, we created this populate colleges. How do I call this? Okay, somebody other than Megan. I've asked Krista, Megan, Logan, Liv, Eric. So I'll ask Ashley this time. Yes. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'm having a problem. What's the solution, Kosh? I've not heard your voice. Okay, you shouldn't say you don't know. This is where you want to reason through it. If you're in an interview, you can say, well, I'm not sure, but I'll try to reason through it. Because I don't know means, well, you're not going to make an effort. So how many of you know the answer to solving this problem? Always, one thing I keep harping on, and I'm pretty sure you'll get tired pretty soon, if not already tired of it. But the issue is, I keep saying, you have to understand the reason or the concept behind it. Only then can you really solve a problem. So why is this problem occurring? There's a fundamental reason, right? Okay, Krista, what's the fundamental reason?
You need to do a class related.
Okay, all of these methods, either they belong to a class or an object of a class. So here I'm just randomly calling it. The only way I can call a method like this is, when can I do this? Good. If it's in the same class, okay? If it's in any other class, you have to prefix it either by the class name or you have to create an object. Okay, so we have this college list, and then I'm going to, you can see that right up here, the seed method says it is having one parameter, and so it says the name of the parameter is context. What is the data type of this parameter? Eric? Yeah.
Application database context from our model.
This is the name of the class, application DB context, and where did you see it? And where is this, the identity model? Okay, we just said that this is the class that helps communicate with the database. So in effect, what does this context represent? A means of communicating with the database, right? So we are going to use that, the context, to say context dot, and you can see that it showed colleges as one of the associated database options. So this is the colleges property. So we are going to say to that colleges, we are going to add a range of values. Okay. And that range is inside of this college list. Why did I say add range instead of just add? Okay, let's.
You would have to add one at a time and just add.
Yeah, and here I have multiple colleges in this list. Okay. And then finally, once I have this context, I have to say, save these changes onto the database. So we'll usually use this three-step process to populate our tables on the database with some sample data. If you want, you can keep this as reference to how you can generate single rows of data. I don't know if we will use this, but you can see now why MVC wants these. When it's creating a new person, this is a person class example that they're giving, it's not using a constructor, instead it's using what? This is a well, in a class, well, in the, well, with an attribute, can you give a value? What did we create in our class here? A property. A property you can set a value and get a value. So that's what it's doing here. Well, that's fine. So anyway, so this is what you need to send the data over. But before we do that, we have to add another migration. What I usually do at this point is to build a solution to make sure I don't have any build errors. Okay. I need to add a new migration now, because why do I want to add a new migration? My initial migration consisted of all the authentication tables that were pre-built. I now we added in this new class, college. Okay, so this next migration that we want to do needs to include college as well. That converts or gets sent over to the database. So I'm going to do this step. So I said the first step is only done once. So I'll just make a note of it, only once. Then these two I keep doing multiple times, but you have to do it a little carefully. So you cannot just, what I tend to do is the update database moves from C# or object orientation to database. The other version of update database is update database dash target 0. This basically reverses the migration and sets it back to the initial state of removing all of the tables. So every time you do a migration, you create a migration, but then you move it back to a sort of an initial state with no tables, and then you do the update database. So how do we do this? So I'm going to do this add migration. So this time, and so let me follow this process. So from now on, this is what we'll do. Add migration, and we'll call this, don't just call it college. If you called it college, maybe I should, so that you'll see the problem it creates. I've seen other students do it, so maybe sometimes, at least what do you think I learned best from? What's that? Mistakes. So let's make the mistake. And so let's see what happens if you do this. If you're not able to reverse it, I don't know the solution. So anyways, let's try this. Add migration. We'll just call it college. It's one of those really hard errors to find. So if I do this, let's see. So it's okay. So it went ahead and created a migration. So it created a new file with the date stamp and college as the extension. Now it opened up that file. Okay, now somebody tell me what's the problem. Is that Stella there? Mm-hmm. Okay, Stella, can you come in and sit down for, you'll be done in 5 minutes.
Did not grab our data.
Well, it's a very fundamental. It's not just the data. It's even more very basic than if you're working with object orientation. There were several students, and actually I didn't realize this was happening until students started making this mistake. Okay, so what's the name of this class? College. And what does that? We all have another, our own class, which we created called college. So if you have a second class, and actually, if you go to your configuration, cannot convert, it's saying, so what's it referring to? Why is it suddenly having all these?
It's referring to the migration of the...
Yeah, it's referring to this migration class. It's not referring to our class. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get rid of this file, now the college.cs, whatever was created as a result of the migration. I'm just going to delete that. Okay. So if you delete it, let's see, I'll go ahead, rebuild the solution. It should go away this error because there's no conflict in the naming. And then I'm going to go back to my console here. Okay. And this time, instead of saying add manager college, add migration college, I'll say what is the action that I just did was I added college, right? So instead of saying college, I'm going to say this is the action that I performed. I added in the college class. So name your migration based on whatever action you've taken, rather than just the noun form of it. So add migration, added college, I run this. Okay, so now you can see the class, the name of the class is whatever you gave as the action, and it's added this extra create table statement in there. So this is going to be our second migration. Okay, so I told you, so add migration, added college. Okay. And then after that, what we want to do is, yes?
I'm sorry, what was the syntax for the add migration?
Yeah, add dash migration space whatever the name of your migration. And then once you've done that, what we want to do is reverse the migrations back to the starting point. Okay, so we are going to say update database. This dash or hyphen, we are targeting version 0. Okay, so we are going to run this statement next. Okay. So I'm going to run this from the package manager console. So each time you want to follow this process, add a new migration, revert it back. So when it said it reverted it back, if you go to your database and then do a refresh, you should see all the tables have been essentially removed. We are back at the starting point. Okay, how many of you are here now? Okay. Okay. And what do you think is the next step? We went back to 0 because we wanted our next migration to include the additional table corresponding to the class that we added in. Right? So what did we do to do that? What did we do initially? Update database. So that's what we're going to do. So go in here, update database, run it. Okay, and you can see that at the very end, so it's applying the initial migration, it applies the added college migration, and what else does it do at the very end? Run the seed method. So it runs the seed method in the config file, the configuration file, and what did we do inside the seed method? We said add some sample data to the college table. So if you now refresh your tables, you should see colleges in there, and if you select the top whatever rows, you should see some sample data. Okay, so how many of you are there? Yes. Okay. We are just going the other way. Update database basically migrates everything, moves everything from, until you say update database, the migration itself just creates the code to create tables, but it doesn't do it on the database until you run this update database. Okay, Krista?
I'm still getting that weird yellow error, but like everything I'm doing is working. So should I be concerned about that, or should I go to
Which error is that?
it says not determined a valid startup project using project here again for basketball as the app. Instead, your configuration file and working directory may not be set as expected.
Are you having this as your default project here?
Yes.
Okay. What else could it be? Is it applying all of this, or is it just giving you an error and stopping?
Yeah, it gives me the error and then it does all of that.
It does all of this?
Yeah, and I added it to like my
Yeah. Oh, it's your data.
server work.
Okay. I'll have to check what's happening. So, okay, so I just want to make a note of all of you who have gotten this before I turn it over to Stella. So let me go back here, refresh. Okay. So Ashley, what is your state now?
It's more obvious for my kids. Because when you do the same password, it's just a server.
Well, then you have to go through this. This is the most likely place where you're getting that error. So you'll have to review that to see if your connection string is set correctly. Okay, so that's one. Let's see who. Okay, so this is Christos. Okay, so you have colleges, columns with the sample data. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Liv, you're having it then?
Yes.
Okay. What else is there? I don't know if TJ is following along. No, he's not. Okay. Okay, that's not. You've not even tried to delete these tables. So the thing is, you go in and figure this out, because otherwise, if I give you the answer, you then will claim it to be your own, and you'll be under the illusion that you know it when you really don't know it. So that's why I want you to do it. And anyways, that's not particularly well. Okay, so let's go to Eric, and I need to Chris. Where is Chris's?
Yeah, I agree. I built it again. I figured out the first bit, so I'll do the college one after class.
Okay.
Figure it out probably first.
Okay. Okay. So, so at least you've got it started. So you'll have to just go through it.
I built.
Okay.
I did a new one again.
Okay. Okay. So I'll start now. One of the questions that you might have, and before Stella starts, is as far as the exam, I'm going to have it over 2 days. It's the 28th and 30th. I just told the 452 students I'm doing it, so I don't exactly know how I'm going to do it. But I'm doing it over 2 days. The reason being that if I just give it in 75 minutes, as Stella will attest to it, it's not going to be sufficient for you to write through. So hopefully, if you understand this material, my entire objective, even though it might seem very thought-towards, is actually to make sure that you're understanding. So come prepared. Make sure you're understanding. I'm looking more to see that you can actually apply whatever we have discussed. So each component of it I will grade. So the first version that you submit, I will grade it, and then you'll have to get familiar with using FileLocker. You use FileLocker. It's fairly straightforward. We'll go through it maybe next class. Anyways, I shouldn't keep. I'll have Stella come up here to discuss using Visual Studio Team Services. I want you to, the main things are to start using it for your project as a group. Do you need anything other than?
Have you started? Have you done anything?
Well, Team Services, you all set up accounts, right? Okay. So they have their student accounts. We briefly visited the user story section, so if you can log into Team Services. Yes, yeah. Because I want you to, this is why I said have you decided on being together in groups. Group of you. Well, okay, well, whatever it is, it's your responsibility. Okay, so once you're inside, are all of you in there? There is. I think most of you are there.
Okay. We've been using for our capstone project. We set up one team service account. So once you've logged in, just one of you needs to create a team account. So ours is, and you can name it whatever you want. But like ours is group one.
Yeah, rather that you do follow this naming convention. Since you're going to follow through for fall, so you'll be ending your project in fall. So what I would like you to do, call it just fall 2017. So call it instead of fall 2017 MIS. Don't call it by any number. Yeah, fall 2017. Just call it MIS. So MIS project, maybe, or just MIS project, whatever group 1, 2, 3, 4. So group N. So there are 4 groups. So name it 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, and we were using
one student.
Yeah, one student makes it, and then we were using Git, right?
Yes.
Control.
Yeah.
And then you just continue. But then whichever team member creates the account will just have to go and add all your team as team members using their email. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then we had to go through and allow, give permission first.
Make
for
sure
the
you
code
add my, can you just put my email address on note?
Yeah. Well, this creates the account, but then you're going to have to make this is called My First Project, but if you go back to your
just 1 minute. So what she said is that it creates what's the outer shell called? It's an account, and then from within that you have your project, so you can have multiple projects within it. So at some point with your group projects, I'll have your individual projects also there. So do you understand the distinction that Stella just made?
Yeah, so I've never figured out how to, it's really dumb, but to change the name of that default one. So I've just always gone and made a new project. And then you'll call it, probably the same thing, right? Fall, whatever you call it, fall 2017 MIS project group. And I'll make sure it's Yeet, and then you create it.
And the process, we are using Scrum. So,
Oh, oops.
did you use it on?
I didn't. I'll do that again.
Agile is the generic process, and Scrum is the specific version of Agile.
So down here you choose Scrum. And then create. Oh, okay. I guess it had got partway through creating it. I guess from here I can go into our project and show things or what. And here's your project, and if you go up to dashboards, that's where you can find where to add team members. Up here. So you just click invite a friend, and then here you go add, and then just using their email. So if I want to add Nanda, if it finds you, I always have a hard time finding you.
Case sensitive.
Are you up? Is that uppercase? Oh, that's Nanda.
Nanda Surendra at mail.wvu.edu. Usually we'll find
Okay. Yeah, it's working on it. Okay, yeah.
and the clue is that if it uses that whatever color coding, then it's found the user. If it doesn't, then it's...
Yeah, this N comes up.
So please make sure that all of you are connecting up whoever is creating, be able to do that. And add me as well. Because if you don't have me, I won't have access to your code.
Okay. Should we move on?
The Omnium field witness, so Krista has done it. What you did right now.
So this is mail, at mail, so that I think it's good mail. We have the mail.
What do you mean?
Like, we said they would just be the same color.
Not the same color, as long as there is some color
They
coding.
don't show up as like no green,
Yeah.
like head, opening out.
Yeah, so add me and slow field.
Oh, is it, I just do it as they're doing it.
Okay.
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 Yes.
I can't find your Nanda.Surendra, but I have the NA Surendra.
No, I think it's only just type in Nanda.Surendra. And add mail. WVU. Just save changes. Doesn't and use uppercase and everything.
But if you don't have any project.
Let's see if anyone else lived. Did you find that?
I just copy and paste it.
Okay, well, Eric, if it is lowercase Nanda.Surendra, just use the lowercase and lowercase
What's your email? Uppercase.
and remove the mail dot. Okay, so do they have to send an invite first to the team members? See if you can go to the team members and invite not here, you can only close that out, go to your team members. Then you click on that. And then let's see if you can go in and add. Canonic, if I'm not able to find it now, I will try to figure that out later. Let's see, okay, go ahead. Okay, now it is recognized, okay, save changes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it is. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, let's go to the next step. We have about 10 minutes.
Okay. So I'm going to leave this project and I'm going to go. This is this is my team's account, and we have like all our separate projects under there, but then we also have our capstone project, which is here. So I'll show you in there. You go to dashboards again. Yeah, see this? I'll just show you. This is how it looks like if it's not recognizing the email. So like that Monda mix, it didn't recognize. I just had to delete it. Anyway, but for user stories, you're going to go to the Work tab, and have you talked about user stories?
Yeah, we've spoken about. They actually have written down their user stories, but has anyone used the Visual Studio Team Services to start putting user stories? Okay, so they have somewhat started, but I think.
Yes, you'll just go here and you'll add a new item. And that's just funny. I think it's easier if you're in the backlog view and then you add a new one. And you have to give it a title. So like ours were all that little blurb you write, like as a recruiter I want to do this so that I can do this. So you just do the title and then add it, and then in there you can, this is the one I just created, and you can double click it to open it up. And in here we were putting, like, you know how you had conditions for completing your user story, so we just had that all typed in, and I can show you, like this one.
One thing maybe to show the assignment of each user
story.
Yeah,
so I'm going to go back to the one I just created, it's unassigned. And you go up here to the top to this little drop down, and you can choose from your team members. I don't know why it's just showing you. Can I add Madeline? Okay. Yeah, so you can choose one of your team members to assign it to. And then whenever that team member logs in, it will show up on their dashboard here. So save and close. So when I log in, it shows the work assigned to me. So these are the 3 user stories that are assigned to me that aren't completed yet.
So you can show the different stages of each user story.
Okay. So this is in the backlog view, but if you go to the board here, you can sort of drag them over. So we have these 5 that we think we've completed all the functionality for. These are here just because they're questions for you to keep them separate. But like this one, I actually finished over break, so it's done. I can just drag it right over here and drop it, and it shows up on this little graph as done. And it will no longer be on my dashboard also. So I only have 2 now.
It's a very nice workflow management tool if we use it properly. So hopefully with your group we will actually use it more.
We kind of just got into it. But you can also, so we have our code for our team project on here. You can see that's our solution file, our project file.
How did you load the code in there? Did you do it from Visual Studio or did you do it?
Yeah, I think I think we cloned it. And then, see, because we started a project and then moved it into this.
Yeah, they've all
So,
started the
I don't know.
project with class diagrams. So
No, I mean, we started it with a different Visual Studio account, and then we had to try and disconnect it from that and add it into this one.
okay.
So I think what I did is I made a clone folder and then just moved my actual code files into there, like without any of the Git attributes files and things like that.
So,
and then-
so can you just click on the clone?
And the clone. There.
Okay, so we can,
Clone in Visual Studio.
so if you're going from Team Services Online to your Visual Studio locally, you can clone it from here. But if you're going the other direction, what do you do?
Let's see. I'm going to go to this is this one we just made? Here, this one. Because this won't have anything in it. And then let's see. I have to go to code. And then clone. In Visual Studio. Open. What the hell are you? So you'll have to log in from Visual Studio to your Microsoft account so that it can connect it all. Okay, so here it's asking you to choose a location for your clone repository. Do you want to explain what that is? I'm not sure. The clone repository.
There are it's not, you're going to have two versions of the code. One is on, if you want to broadly call it the cloud, which is Visual Studio Online, and the other is the clone of it on your local machine. So the common code base is online, and then each individual member of the team works with the local version on your machine. And the entire process, the Git is what coordinates that it's all, the source code is managed so that so you don't overwrite each other's work and it monitors the changes that were made. So this is basically where it's going to get. So one is going to go online, the HTTPS. The other is the version that's there on this local machine.
Do you want to keep going? Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, that's, do you understand how to move that code onto the online common source?
Yeah, you'll have to,
Okay.
you'll have to clone it, and then there's no solutions attached to this project yet, so you'll just have to open your code from wherever you have it stored right now. I don't know if you have some on here I could try in.
Yeah, you can take that on my E drive. That should be, well, if we go back up to spring 2017, yeah, 450, yeah, that one, yeah.
Okay. Almost.
Yeah, that's
So choose the solution file. Okay, so you just choose your code, and then, oh, okay. It's there in the Solution Explorer, and then you go to Changes. Thanks. Yeah, no, it's not doing. Hang on.
I guess is it now online?
I think you.
just the code is essentially now. If you go back to your online view, Visual Studio Online, Team Services, if you go to the code view, does it give you?
It doesn't have it yet. So I think you have to push it, but it's not.
You have, okay. So once you're there, you won't have to push it. So,
Maybe it's because it's open.
see if you can just sync, maybe.
And I think you have to connect. It's connected to this. Yeah, this is the part that always confuses me.
What it should be saying is still as pointing out if there is a district, if there is something, if the two, the local and the one online are not synced, it will show that there are changes to be synced, and it's currently not showing any changes. So if you click on changes, if there is nothing, then it's probably not going to try to sync. So
you don't have to change something?
yeah, try changing some
Do
code.
you have any views?
Let's save that and see if it shows up as a change.
Yeah,
what we'll do is
I'm missing
we'll explore
something.
this a little more.
yeah.
But are all of you now connected as a team?
In this view.
Okay. So this is pretty much, so what I would request you to do is to explore a little more of Visual Studio Team Services. This is actually, it's very valuable to learn to use this tool because many companies work with these types of source control tools. So explore it, and we will keep discussing. And but the main thing is I want you all to be together on the project.
I like that thing that Josh put together. Maybe that would be
Yeah.
better.
Okay.
Because that was taking the code and connecting it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.